Just what the world needs. Another Superman Batman origin story, kind of. Hello, and welcome to Panelism, podcast where what do? We talk about, God damn it.
We review Beanie Babies in all their glory and get them ready for the secondary market.
And yeah, different panels for your house. You have vinyl panels.
That's right. Yeah, we had talked about switching up the content.
Yeah,
we now review.
Siding.
We are now pitching a full show to HGTV where we talk about. We're like those two twin guys that with squinty eyes that everybody loves. Who are those? You know what I'm talking about? Hey, speaking of,
was that our welcome? Are we just rolling with that?
Sure.
I was going to redo it.
No. We're going to keep going. I have a big major question for you. It is something that was posed to me when I was in Portland last week, and I don't have the answer to it.
All right.
What happened to Ty Pennington? Where did that guy go? Was he kidnapped? Was he a deep cover operative? Like, I haven't seen hide nor hair of that guy.
I think he just merged into Chip Gaines. He is become Chip Gaines, right? I don't know. That's the Chip and Joanna fixer-uppers, right?
Yeah, you may not be wrong. He was just subsumed.
Yeah.
By wow, holy crap.
You was separated at birth on those two guys.
I accept that as an answer. All right, we can move on.
It's just, yeah, it's like the blob of reality TV. It just comes for everybody eventually.
It'll get you too in the end.
Yeah.
Anyway,
wow.
What's new with you? What's new with you this last week or weekend?
Man, I am just so busy and nothing I can talk about or announce or anything. Just working my buns off, and so I don't really know where I am or what I'm doing. I was on a train this morning. I've already worked, had like a brunch lunch, and done all this other crazy stuff that I would like to say ordinarily not do on a Sunday, but that seems to be just how things are rolling these days. So, what about yourself?
Just got back from Portland. Was there doing various businessy things. Was on the Nike campus. Just interesting.
It's a real shame they don't have any good comic books in Portland.
Oh, well, I'm burying the lead. Portland, of course, is the holy land. It is to comics as Nashville is to country music, in my opinion. Like it is where you go to immerse yourself in that culture. Some of the best shops, if not the best shops in the entire country, are located there, along with various publishers and creators and writers and artists. It is kind of, I don't even know quite how this happened. I'd love to see or potentially one day create the documentary that kind of explains how Portland got to this, but it is a joyous thing. And of course, I made a trip to one of my favorite shops, and I picked up a book we're going to talk about in the next episode. So stay tuned there.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. I noticed you'd shared several pics on your personal Instagram, which you want to give a shout out to that. But are you going to put some on Panelism as well?
Yeah, no, I put up one when I was going into Bridge City, so they're tagged in there. And then
cool.
I have a couple of some of the books I've been reading that I'll post up this week too.
Well, I've got some. If you want to preview that, go to by Taylor Trask on Instagram.
Yeah, BYTAYLORTRASK.
Oh, wow. Do you feel like we're just stumbling into this episode?
Nah, it's okay. We haven't had a good awkward cold open in a long time, so this is good.
It just feels like everything is snowballing. So we'll see how this goes.
I'm just putting it off because I really want to talk about the book you picked. You teased me ahead of time, so I've been looking stuff up, and I have many questions. So I'm let's just get into that because it's super duper interesting.
And this is another of those. It was just such a weird pick this week, and so I was on a train yesterday and today. And yesterday, thought I knew what I was going to talk about, and was sort of going through Comixology, like, this is what I'm going to talk about. I'm going through the books that I'd already downloaded, and then somehow in my brain I was like, man, I don't have my thoughts together on this. What could I do? And this book that I'm going to talk about was in my Comixology account. I don't have any idea how it got there. I do not remember purchasing this. I checked to see if it was borrowed. It is not borrowed. I apparently own this. I assume it was on one of those massive like Marvel DC sale days or something.
I was just about to ask. If you don't remember, I mean, chances are you bought it for $2 during some crazy event.
Exactly. And then I knew I always had wanted to read it because I picked up a couple of single issues that were out of order just to kind of check out the art. Anyway, I'm talking about an old book ish called Batman Superman. And we're going to talk about Volume 1, Crossworld. This is the start of that series with the New 52. The writer was Greg Pak and the illustrator was Jay Lee. I thought I had the year in front of me.
It's 2014.
So that's, okay, cool. That's what I was seeing too.
And point of order, we're not talking about Superman Batman Volume 1, which is very similar entitled, but is a different book entirely. So if you're going to Google this, look for Batman Superman, not Superman Batman. Just pointing that out there, because that happened to me moments ago.
Oh, wow. I can't even explain how that little Lego brick clicked in my brain of like, like that just connected a couple things that I didn't realize till now. Okay, cool. I think in the DVD extras, they make a reference to something that had to do with Superman Batman.
Okay.
Anyway, so this has been, and you and I have somehow talked about this in other ways. And so we talked about Jay Lee's art when we talked about Before Watchmen, correct?
That and Superman American Alien. He is one of the artists featured there too.
That's what it is, where he's come up. And so I think maybe off air, or it's just come up in a mention, like, I've said like, oh yeah, he did that Batman Superman book. The art is what is most striking about this, and that's what led me to just pick up single issues where I thought I gotta see what's going on here. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it was really hard to even get a foothold, which was sort of that difficult thing that you and I talk about, which is like, unless you're there at issue number 1, once it gets to like into issue 5, 6, 7 or something, it's hard to start. It's like, well, what do I start with? I don't know. If you don't know where the arc ended, it's hard to jump in. And that is definitely the problem I found in 2014, 15, whenever I picked up these single issues. And actually, this may have dated to like 2013. That may be what it is, that it wasn't compiled until 2014. But as hopefully but maybe you don't, that you, Taylor, know that the New 52 was another whole reboot thing. And DC made all these like weird editorial decisions that really goofed up all the books I was reading. And, as with all reboots, it gives talented creative teams an opportunity to kind of like look at the stuff through a new lens. But if you're coming into one of those books in the wrong frame of mind, I would definitely bring, this is, that's on the reader, I think. You're kind of thrown off, where are we in this? And some things in the New 52 were like retconned or just sort of deleted or reset in order to put readers in that familiar place. Like, for example, the big one that comes to mind that I'm like super annoyed by is undoing the entire story of Oracle and making Batgirl Barbara Gordon again. Fine. But, so it's like, okay, well, we all know she's the daughter of Police Commissioner Gordon, etc. Like, you're in, that's how it was in the 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever, until the 80s when Alan Moore killed her. Right? That was Alan Moore. Wait, or not killed her, but incapacitated her and paralyzed her.
Yes.
Sorry.
Among
in the
other
killing
terrible things.
I happen to like the story. I didn't especially appreciate her role in Killing Joke, but I liked the story of Oracle. And I liked Cassandra Cain. It sounds like that's who we're getting in the Birds of Prey Suicide Squad thing that's happening. It's going to be Batgirl, Cassandra Cain, not Barbara or Stephanie. And I liked Stephanie Brown, who was the Batgirl right before New 52 happened. Anyway, that's a long way of getting here. So when I picked this up, I didn't know where Batman and Superman were in the universe at that point. Like, Are we starting all over? What's happening? And so I'll just give like a brief criticism of this, which is it's a very interesting story in terms of like the sci-fi-ness of it, which goes very, very well with Jay Lee's art. But it has a multi-dimensional Earths and a Superman and Batman on each that find themselves together and they don't really understand who the other is. It has a couple of cool roles from Lois and Selena Kyle and Wonder Woman who come in. But it has this weird looming dark side thing. And so it doesn't quite feel like a reboot at like stage one. It feels like we're already like we're somewhere in media res of Batman and Superman stories. And that was the problem I had was I couldn't get a foothold on like, where are we? What is going on in this universe right now? There were no references outside to either the New 52 or just anything that like let me figure out which of these two pairs of heroes is the one from the Earth that DC is occurring on.
Does it matter though? Like, does it really?
So
does that impact the story at all?
Love that question. It does, Matt. So that's why I emphasize that that's like what the reader brings into it, because I felt like, okay, that's just me kind of going into it and thinking it's New 52 and I'm going to get a reset. The problem is that the reset comes in like these, to me, the problem is the reset comes in these sort of like off the cuff mentions. It's like Batman's narration will say like, well, we've been friends for 25 years. And you're like, wait, which Batman is saying this?
Oh, okay.
So if you just come into it like, if you just come in,
actually.
I'm really, Will Arnett's going to have to retire at some point. I want to get in on those Lego Batman movies. So it's what you bring into it. And I think there's probably a way to just blank your mind of New 52 and read this as a sci-fi Batman Superman book. I'm like calculating, I'm like metagaming it. Because there's the Superman from whatever other Earth this is dressed in what was at one point the Superboy attire, which is like a short sleeve Superman shirt and jeans. Dumbest, it's like when Aquaman like swims in jeans in the movie. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that aside, the story is like some god or like trickster god has brought these Earths together because of this terrible like killing device, and has been sent there by Darkseid to sort of determine who are the strongest heroes. And sorry, this is just my memory. I can't remember if in the and that's fine because I can't spoil it. I can't remember if it's resolved whether they want to fight the weaker heroes or the stronger ones. But there's some cool stuff to retell the Batman Superman story through these this other pair of the heroes from the alternate Earth, because they are younger. And so what we see is like the experienced Superman and Batman, who I assume are the like Earth One, this is, the current universe heroes. And the other two younger ones are sort of like their new friends. They don't really know who to trust. They don't have all their moves down. So there's some cool stuff there. And I think when Lois and Selena and Wonder Woman appear, it does sort of anchor it in like a familiar DC universe. But other than that, like it's just all gray area. We don't know Justice League. I mean, we do know they're in Metropolis, but it's just not grounded in a great way. But as you point out, maybe that's superfluous because Jay Lee's art is unbelievably like beautiful and astonishing and worth every second you spend with this book. Is like just staring at that art
each panel looks like its own like commissioned thing that you would hang in a frame in some office or study somewhere. Like it's like it's clear he loved drawing this book or these characters. He just more so than any other of his other stuff. However, it's worth pointing out, and I can't wait to delve a little further into the story too, but there was a great one shot that Jay Lee did as part of the Superman American Alien series, which I reviewed on a previous episode. His chapter kind of comes in the middle, and his chapter, and it's, it's all, they were all written by Max Landis. But Jay Lee drew it, and it's the one where the Superman in the American Alien storyline first encounters Batman for the first time. And so it's cool to like see that, and then like kind of just see that there's an entire book now, because I really like the way and they weren't even together for very long. It was sort of an interesting, it's kind of an interesting little twist that pops up. But like the way he sort of shows them together and interacting together, like it just, I really dug it. And then the way he draws the bat stuff, with the very spiky, that cape is always very spiky and very sort of like claw, like very wing-like. So it's just, I love that. And just as soon as you said this, I'm like, man, I kind of want this just for that alone. Like the hardcover, I'm assuming, is pretty exquisite to keep on your shelf.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, how would you describe his art? I don't know if you can see it, but the opening page is a scene in Gotham, which is, it's very similar to what you're describing of like that meeting of Superman and Batman. In this Gotham, we are seeing Clark Kent meet Bruce Wayne, and Bruce does not yet know in the scene that Clark Kent is Superman. I think, but Clark has recognized, he doesn't know that Bruce is Batman, but he recognizes Bruce, even though Bruce is kind of trying to disguise himself as this rough low life so he can sort of, scout out like the rough side of Gotham. But that opening picture has like these airships flying over and this very gothic sci-fi sort of archway that Superman or Clark is walking into, and then almost this sort of Tokyo feel of like the vertical signage hanging off all these tall buildings, and various denizens of this like sort of rough end of Gotham are approaching Clark, who looks like a farm boy, and there are some very obvious like stereotypes that you see approach him, like the drug dealer and the prostitute and things like that. But when it just does a disservice to it, and not that it's not worth reading in digital, because one of the beautiful things about the digital version is that you're getting like that close-up view of every single panel, but you definitely have to zoom out, because when he composes a page like this, you've got, it's inadequate to take that in on digital. You probably want the print version to really feel that monumental.
That's the thing about Jay Lee. His composition's great. He's figured out how to break that 9-grid structure completely to hell. And like, he loves to do things. He loves to do circles and wheels. A lot of times he loves to do just really take advantage, and like you could take the art out and just shapes on a page in terms of his panels and his grids, and they're almost a work of art just by themselves. It's kind of got like a stained glass window quality to it a lot of times, the way he plays with geometry and kind of like ties it all together in these kind of these vignettes that are individual but they come together really nicely.
Funny you would say that, because there is like, as you flip through the first couple pages, I was going to bring up that the first big like splash that's like a full page or 2-page spread that is the title page of this first issue does look like stained glass. Like everything is broken. The panels are not at all rectangular or circular or anything. They're all just tetrahedrons that I guess that's what they are. They're not three-dimensional though. What the hell is that called? Rectangles, I guess. Anyway, they are all broken out, but like stained glass, like there's just little shards of them, and they're surrounding a shape of the Superman logo, that thing on his chest with the title of that issue in it, Crossworld. And it's like when you just when you're clicking through in guided view, you're not getting that impression, but when you zoom out, it's really striking that there's a short Superman story on one side with a specific color palette, and a short Batman story on the other, like basically like catching up a little flashback from either. Here's what Clark's boyhood was like, here's what Bruce's was. So yeah, I mean, just the art is like, just flipping through this as I'm doing right now as I'm talking to you brings me joy. Like, it is so gorgeous.
We need to give a quick shout out to, who's the colorist on this thing?
That's a great question, and I'm sorry that I didn't have that at my fingertips. But yeah, the color is also stunning. I'm flipping there right now. And it's not on.
I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna wager while you look.
I want to hear. Yeah, go for it.
I think I'm just based on what I'm seeing. I'm guessing the colorist was.
It's very confusing because there's 4 of them listed.
John Higgins, Steve Root. Hang on. I think I'm gonna go with. Oh, come on. No, I can't. Finally, there June Chung, John Higgins. Yes,
June Chung.
June Chung, and I
yeah,
say that because she was involved with the coloring of Watchmen before Watchmen, Ozymandias, which Jay Lee illustrated as well. And it just, when I'm looking at in my Google searches, like the color looks, it's very, very similar.
Yeah, and they are credited. Jay and June are credited as the collection cover artists.
Okay.
So yeah, like that. That's definitely the imagery you're seeing.
They need to work together all the time, because I have not liked Jay Lee's work when it's colored by other people nearly as much.
Interesting. Well, that's great to know, because, yeah, it's amazing. And I'm torn. Do I go on to volume 2, kind of having a hint of this world, or what do I do? And then I had this whole inner monologue of this is, kind of like, that's probably the problem of going back to a reboot number 1 issue sort of thing. And like the baggage I'm carrying into it versus just feeling like, hey, this is just a new set of Superman Batman stories. I guess the thing is that because of those little flashbacks, like, for example, one of them is that that Bruce and Clark met when they were like 9-year-old boys, because the Wayne family car broke down in Smallville. And Alfred recognized, like, this little boy comes up and talks to Bruce, and Alfred recognized that it would probably be good for Master Wayne if he played with this boy rather than me just keep him in the car and fix and drive on. So, they end up having dinner with the Kents, and Alfred talks to Pa Kent and tells him, like, I could have fixed that car a long time ago, but I knew they both needed to play. And it's like, come on. I mean, what's happening? So it's just things like that where I'm like, wait, are you inserting this into the new canon, or is this part of that alternate world thing? I don't know what's going on. But again, that I feel like that's sort of my bias coming into it. I was just hoping for, like, hey, it's, this is the relationship. This is where we are. We're stepping off right here. But anyway, yeah, I love the art so much that I'm very tempted to start checking out the further volumes. And I guess in that way, because they have already rebooted DC again a couple years later with Rebirth, this has all been sort of wiped out again, or whatever has happened, who knows. So it's sort of like getting into an 80s band. You're like, Greg and Jay, their work's done. I can go back and sort of read it and appreciate it in a little in its little crystal ball, and that's it.
I mean, you could also, I was just going to say, like, you could also, as is the tradition with many DC books, just sort of consider it a one-shot, like its own Elseworlds kind of thing, and that's it. When they do these runs, and the kind of the nice thing about them rebooting so often is, as silly as it is, it does give some of these series the chance to actually end, whether they want to or not. It's
right.
Just sort of put a cap on it, like work towards that end and be a little bit more streamlined in your storytelling. I like that so much more.
Yeah. And I think just a general sort of criticism of when comic books, and not that they shouldn't do it. It's, a lot of comic books do really cool time travel, multiverse stuff. But when that gets compressed into something like this, where we're sort of being reintroduced to characters that we already have a lot of expectations about. Like in my mind, I did not expect that they had met as boys, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in times like that, it might be better to focus more on like the action stuff. I'm torn here. I don't know what to say, but I know that I feel like the action is like everything Jay has drawn and June has colored is gorgeous. But it does feel like sometimes where I'm missing a piece of the action because there's like some weird storytelling happening, which is a thing I get from Tom King as well on some of the Batman issues I've read that he's done, where I'm like, oh man, you're just trying to fit in so many zingers that I don't know who punched who out at this moment, So it's hard for me to say it suffers. It's just like it's not yet at that perfect harmony of story and art, which I desperately hope it will be in the next couple of volumes. But, like you said, it's already happened, so it's over. It's a capsule.
Yeah. Very cool. anything else? I'm just trying to think of how much further into the story, because then you don't want to give too much away. I mean, the books, I would say this is one of those rare opportunities, well, not rare, but unique, where the art is so good, that alone sells the story, and then you can almost just enjoy the story too.
Yeah.
As like a bonus. It's
yeah.
I am curious. So it seems like they're up to volume 3. Do they go beyond that?
I don't know. Those are all the ones I was familiar with too.
I knew how much,
and I don't know how many went on after that.
Is it clear that they're working on a grand arc, or is every volume more self-contained in terms of the story?
See, I have no idea. So at the end of this, it is resolved, like the two Supermans and Batmans are not living on the same plane anymore.
Okay.
But it kind of resolves in this sort of threat of Darkseid, the Thanos of the DC universe, just sort of looming in like he's not there on the planet. He's just sort of out there. Like there's a couple of illustrations of him and stuff.
How does Jay Lee draw Darkseid? That must be cool.
It's actually cool in the DVD extras in this, of which there are a lot, like a bunch of good sketches and covers and stuff like that. In those extras, there's a comment from Jay where he's like, "Give me more Darkseid. I love drawing ugly things."
Wow.
So yeah, he just really takes, I mean, it's not extreme in the sense of like it's not a different Darkseid, but it's like, yeah, there's clear joy in like the the wrinkles and the grit on his face and stuff like that. But yeah, the other thing that as now I've flipped to the page view and I'm like flipping through all of the thumbnails, and God, the colors, like it just jumps out at you when there's like dark pages and there's light because of some explosion or something, or Wonder Woman riding her Pegasus in the sky, and you're like, oh my God, I got to zoom in on that. So yeah, it's just a beautiful book. And if you like Superman and Batman, and who doesn't, here's another one.
Yeah. Again,
that's gotta be better than Justice League the movie.
Oh God. And again, that's the Batman Superman Volume 1.
Thank you for clarifying.
Greg Park and Jay Lee, not Superman Batman Volume 1. It's very, very different. Very
correct. Different. Yeah.
And if you, I was going to
story questions, but yeah.
And one more shout out, if you get it and you dig dig Jay Lee's art, go check out Before Watchmen, Ozymandias, same team, like I mentioned before. It's just, it's as cool a take on Ozymandias. Like he loves drawing like acrobatics and bodies, bodies moving very sort of beautiful sort of artistic ways. Like he loves I think that's the thing I like most about his kind of version, his chapter in the Superman American Alien series, is just because he shows a bit of a little tiny battle between early, I would say 18-year-old Bruce and 18-year-old Clark, and it's just the way he draws Batman specifically in that was just like very agile, very. Oh yeah, and I can't describe it any other way. It's
I know,
its own thing.
Sort of like you were describing how sometimes the panels are circles or different polyhedrons or whatever. Like that's sort of the way the characters bend when they're in fights. The fights with like Catwoman and Batman, or Catwoman, like she goes after this other villain at one point. Like, yeah, she's just twisting and bending and everything. And when that's happening, when that action is going on, the background is so atmospheric. And although it's detailed in the sense of like a lot of fine line drawings, it's not cluttered with a whole when they're in Gotham, there's this great scene of like these kids bullying a little kid. That's what Clark and Bruce witness in the opening scene. And in the background of that is just this pitch black, like super gothic, like barren of all leaves tree that's just like this evil tree that's just stretched and just like it almost looks like vines or something with thorns coming out of it. But that's it. You're not seeing like a bunch of buildings with all the windows and all these people in the background. You're just seeing like 4 boys in a fight with this like super creepy tree behind them. And it's so striking, because that's totally pitch black. So the color of the boys in the foreground really pops out. And it's so much like that when, there's like a couple of little fights in the sky and you've just got this brilliant blue sky behind like these, either gray or black suited characters, or like the bat jet or whatever, and it's, I don't know, it's just so punchy the way he does that. And yeah, I could gush about art all day. So this makes me, I can't believe I haven't picked up Ozymandias in the Before Watchmen series. So I'm like seriously going Comixology right now to check that out.
Yeah, definitely worth it. And you can go check out this podcast elsewhere on Instagram. Pardon me, guys.
Yeah, wherever. That's
Instagram. It is at panelism.inc. Also, that is our website address, www.panelism.ink, and you'll get the archive of our past shows and other things. And yeah,
I like that we're going out the way we came in, tripping over our own feet. It was great.
It's it's one of those. It's autumn time. It's what we do or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's been fun. We'll see you on the next episode.